I think I'm going to get started with the introduction, and then I'll give people a little bit more time to come, and then we can launch into the presentation. Okay, so thank you all for joining. My name is Kyle Barker. I am the co-chair of the Small Practices Network, along with Susie Sanchez, who's also on the Zoom. We are co-hosting today with the Marketing and PR Network. Sorry, trying to multitask and let people in at the same time as chatting. It's just not my suit. Okay.
I can
So I
let
wanted to.
people in.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Oh, okay.
I'll let
You all
people
have the
in.
power. Okay, cool,
Yeah.
great. All right. So I wanted to introduce our speakers today. So today we are joined by Marcia Miller, Associate AIA. Marcia is the Director of Client Relations and Corporate Marketing for Vanderweil Engineers, a 475-person MEP, FP engineering firm headquartered in Boston with 9 offices across the US. At Vanderweil, she's responsible for firm-wide business development and oversees the marketing for all the offices. She has a bachelor's degree in architecture and an MBA, both with honors. For the past several years, she's co-chaired the BSA's Marketing and PR Network, which is transitioning to new co-chairs at the moment. She's also served on the executive committee for the National Association of Industrial and Office Parks, as Director of Outreach for the Society for Marketing Professional Services, and she's taught a marketing and business development course at the Mass College of Art and Design. There's so much more to Marcia, but I'm going to stop there for purposes of getting onto our content. And then our other speaker today is Chris Jasinski. Chris is a senior associate in business development at HGA. Throughout his career, he's held many positions, most recently as the marketing director at Brick, which was acquired by HGA, and as the director of marketing for Union Studio in Providence. He's the immediate past chair and fundraising chair for the Architecture, Construction, Engineering Mentor Program in Rhode Island. For those of you who may not be familiar with ACE, its mission is to engage, excite, and enlighten high school students to pursue careers in architecture, engineering, and construction through mentoring and to support their continued advancement in the industry. Lastly, and I pulled this from his bio because I liked it, his personal mission is to, quote, humanize the way architecture and design are communicated, bridging the gap not only within the industry, but also with clients, the community, and the public. So thank you for both coming today. We are so excited to have you. And I think this is the biggest turnout we've ever had. So there's no, there's no pressure associated with that. It's just a, I think, exciting reflection of how excited people are to hear from you. So
Awesome.
I'm going to hand it over to you. You should
thank you,
have
Kyle.
screen sharing privileges and
Yes,
all
thank
that.
you, Kyle.
Yes. One. Second here.
All right,
Can everybody see this?
we're good.
Although I don't want everyone to see the toolbar. Get rid of
I don't think we could see
Oh,
the
wait.
toolbar anymore.
Oh,
After you
you
did the
couldn't?
full screen thing, I
Yeah,
don't
it
think we
was
could
Oh,
see
okay.
it.
Sorry. Let me reshare then.
I think it's looking good.
Oh, no. This worked when Marcia and I did our walkthrough, and now it's.
I
I
think we all
apologize.
know that Zoom is somewhat evil.
Well, it literally just closed my Google browser, so we
Boo.
will. Let me pull it back up. Apologies, everyone.
Well, actually, this gives me an opportunity. People are also welcome. There's no pressure, obviously, if you're eating lunch or whatever, or you just need a break from Zoom, it's totally fine to leave your camera off. But if you feel comfortable having your camera on, we love seeing your faces. So in the culture of our meetings, it's not weird to leave your camera on. You're not like pulling focus.
Yeah, and also if anybody has questions, comments, like please feel free to speak up, raise your hand. We really want it to be a good conversation and not just, Marcia and I telling you everything. So feel free to interrupt.
Yeah, so I can just, I know you're trying to get, oh, there it is. Perfect. All right. So, hi, everyone. Again, my name's Marcia, and you good, Chris?
Yeah.
All right. So the title of our presentation is called Foundations of Effective Marketing and Business Development for Small Architecture Firms. And so the next slide, you've already had the introductions, but we do have QR codes here that go to our LinkedIn, and/or feel free to email us, or however, if you need to get in contact with us. And so for today's discussion, we are going to talk about creating and executing a plan, align business goals to passion and expertise, crafting your personal brand and company identity through storytelling, and the most important thing in business development. So to start it off with, before we jump into our discussion of marketing and business development plans, we thought it was important to define the differences between what marketing, business, and strategic plans are. And that's why we've put these three definitions here. And I don't necessarily want to read through them, but I do want you guys to read through them. And I just want to give credit to the Society of Marketing Professional Services Markendian books, because they were a lot of the source for what I'm about to present as far as the marketing plan is concerned, because they are specifically focused on our industry, the architecture, engineering, construction industry. And there's just such a plethora of information out there on marketing plans and business development plans. It just all seems kind of confusing, and not knowing like there's 7 ways or 9 ways to do this or that. So based on now that, there are 7 components that we thought were vital to a successful marketing plan. Those include the audit. Where do you stand? Where do you excel? The outlook. What's out there? Where can you be effective? Goals and objectives. What do you want to achieve? Strategies. How are you going to do it? Tools and resources. What do you need? The budget. What will it cost? And can I afford it? And then finally, the implementation. Who's actually going to do what and when? So keeping that framework in mind of those 7 components, first things first, the audit. Do you even have an actual physical written marketing plan? Not something that you just typed out and never executed or shared, but an actual plan that is well thought out and that you review year to year, either if you're a firm of one with yourself or with your colleagues, if there's other folks at your firm. So what does it look like? And a plan, it can be simple, it can be complex, but you definitely need one. And so moving on with the marketing plan, that outlook, it's important to understand the industry and landscape and competition, because this will help determine the best approach to a marketing plan for your firm. There are various ways to analyze marketing forces that can affect your firm. And I kind of struggled with what to show you guys, but I felt that using the epistle method, and that's what it's called with those acronyms, standing for economic, political, international, sociocultural, technological, legal, and environmental. I think taking a look at these forces, it seemed that this model was the broadest look at the marketing forces that could impact your firm. And so ways to analyze this marketing data when you're taking a look at all those forces, just keeping in mind the following considerations. Is it accurate information? Is it sufficient data to draw meaningful conclusions? Is it appropriate? Do you have enough variables, the number and type of variables, to make just guided, proper decisions? Is your data adequate and appropriate? Is it reliable? And as far as geography is concerned, is it appropriate in terms of regional influences that could affect your firm? And so moving on with the marketing plan is conducting a SWOT analysis. I can't tell you how much I'm such a proponent of SWOT. So conducting SWOT, meaning strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat analysis, really is a powerful tool to understand how your firm's core competencies can help increase revenue. This analysis provides a means for your team to systematically review internal and external elements that can directly influence your company's success. Having a SWOT brainstorming session can really reveal insights that you would not have thought of because you're getting the input from yourself and colleagues, and they may not necessarily tell you that information. So I've included an example of a SWOT analysis questionnaire that I've developed and used for my firm in our various offices. This year, I've conducted a SWOT analysis for our Washington, D.C. office, as well as our Boston substation and transmission groups. And it has really afforded a wealth of information. And I want to provide this as a resource for everyone. So Chris and I have a slide where we are including links and other documents, but this in Excel form, it's blank here, and we're happy to post that on the BSA website along with this presentation. So next, the importance of developing the vision and mission statement. Why is it important? The vision statement is an expression of what your firm aspires to be. Knowing who you are is essential to understanding where you want to be. Developing a vision statement helps to align your marketing efforts and enforce your value proposition, i.e., your firm's areas of expertise. And a mission statement is a more direct statement than a vision. It describes where are you going? Where do you want to go now? Is there an existing market you want to penetrate? And I do want to state, though, it can be really difficult because I've been through the process with my firm. We never had a vision or a mission statement before, but it definitely can take some time to articulate and formulate, but it's well worth it if you don't have that. And so moving on, as far as the vision and mission statements, I've also included 2 worksheets that I download, and I also want to include for you all. Again, because we want it to be something working for you if you haven't, and I thought these worksheets did well with the questions they asked. So as far as achieving goals, achievable goals are known to have the following characteristics that form the acronym SMART, and that's specific. Not saying something like, I want to do good architecture, but I want to be a firm that focuses on community housing for underprivileged youth and teens. Like, that's specific. Measurable, not saying something like, we want to increase our revenue, but we want to increase our revenue by 15%. Attainable. You want to make sure that whatever your goals are set, that there is something that you can achieve, even if it's small increments to large, but you don't want to be disappointed or demoralized that you weren't able to achieve anything. Relevant. They should align with all the other goals, whether or not it's strategic or it's business development. And then time bound. The goals should be, you should definitely have deadlines, very critical. So the strategies to achieving your marketing goals include these that I've listed here. Focusing on past and current clients, cold calling, networking, professional organizations, getting involved with them if you haven't been, and really participating on boards, community activities, communication activities, branding, public relations, your website, social media, and speaking and writing, meaning being the thought leader, the producing white papers, things of that nature. And so I began the discussion talking about these 7 components of what makes a successful marketing plan. And I want to conclude by actually kind of like putting it in perspective of what you need to do to implement a successful plan. So the audit. Sitting down and creating an executive summary that explains the overall purpose of your marketing plan and briefly describing your goals, your services, and your target market. You're also going to take the time to develop your vision and your mission statement. Then you'll take a look at the outlook, the conducting of the marketing research, so that you can understand your particular market and your competitors. That's kind of also taking a review of those epistles. The goals, setting short and long-term goals, thinking about what you want your business to be in six months, a year, 5, 10, 20 years. And also taking time to develop marketing objectives and key performance indicators, those metrics like how many hits you got on social media, how many people are coming to your website, those kinds of things. Next, we want to take a look at the strategies, conducting market analysis, looking deeply at the services you provide, how they're unique, how you can sell yourself, or rather, I should just say separate yourself from your competition. Doing the SWOT analysis, looking at those internal and external environmental forces that can help propel your firm to success, and then competitor analysis. Again, seeing how you're similar or dissimilar with other companies, the tools, that's all those things that the marketing channels, the social media, etc. And then just taking a look at the budget, making sure that you set a realistic budget. And we didn't go heavy into that today because we don't have enough time and there's so much to it. That could be a separate presentation in itself, but also just something really important to go through, and the implementation, making sure that you actually execute the marketing plan. It's really important to set up reoccurring meetings and to enforce accountability. And by that, I mean, you've gone through the process of making a plan, make sure that you are following it, that you're checking in, that people are, if they have certain goals that they need to set to make things work, everyone is part of this process. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Chris, and he's going to talk
Awesome.
about business goals.
Yeah, so kind of this whole next section touches on some of that stuff, but it shows how it all kind of relates together. We've covered the marketing plan, so you'll see some similarities when we're talking about auditing ourselves and moving on. But how do you take all of that and start implementing it into what you want to do as a firm or as a sole practitioner or a small firm? So everyone talks about self-awareness and knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're not so good at, where you want to improve. I think it's equally as important to do that as an organization. And even so, like when you're a small firm, you need to recognize what are the talents that you have and what talents don't you have, because does that align with where you want to go that you've outlined in your all your business plan, your marketing plan that Marcia has pointed out. So what have you worked on? What is your skill set? What experience do you have? Just being very open and aware with yourself. What drives you? What are you passionate about? What wakes you up in the morning? Also, what keeps you up at night in a good way? What do you like always kind of like, oh, I want to do this, or if we could improve this building and this design, like you want to kind of think of like what drives you to do what you do every day as architects. And what is your unique ability? A person I used to work with years ago told me that, like, and he took this from a book, he didn't create this himself, but it was what everybody has a unique ability, everybody has something that makes them them. And so really when you're focusing on that thing, nobody else can do it the way you do it because it's uniquely yours. So I think when you do work that ignites your passion and showcases your expertise, that's really a win. And so when you kind of align all of these three things, you have this sweet spot here of your projects. Obviously, not every project can check every single one of these boxes. You have to pay staff or your own salary if you're a sole practitioner, or you're going to have to do things as we're building up our firms. But really, this is that sweet spot and things that are going to kind of help you identify projects and clients that really you want to be known for in the industry. So here's just an example kind of on taking an idea of community focus or passion, that what drives you as community, but community can mean different things to different people. So here's an example of how this can be kind of translated throughout different parts of our industry. Not to say any one of these is more important, but it all contributes to the theme of community, but at different points. So just thinking about truly what that is, getting specific, as Marcia pointed out in your SMART goals, if you say about community, what do you mean specifically? Is that veterans? Is it youth? Is it affordable housing communities? Is it public spaces for everyone to use? Like, what does that mean exactly? And so remember, focusing on areas where you excel, it can get you to lead to greater success and satisfaction of your work and focus and prioritize. It allows you also to differentiate yourself, which we'll touch on shortly as we talk into storytelling here coming up. So we're going to touch on personal brand and company identity through storytelling. Some people have a really strong personal brand. Some people don't know what a personal brand is. I think of it as like a modern day reputation almost. What do people think of you when when somebody says Kyle Barker, what do people think of? And that also aligns with his company identity of Primary Projects. So we're going to kind of touch on how storytelling can help identify both of these things and also how they can relate and work together. So I've also, as Kyle mentioned, I've been in marketing prior to officially being in business development. And the thing I would often hear from people, and I still do when I talk about this with people, is, well, what I do isn't interesting. I'm just a structural engineer and we're doing this, thing that everybody else does, or, we're an interior designer or an architect, and there's a lot of great interior designers, but everybody has an audience, everybody has a story. Again, it goes back to being uniquely you, and think of your own channels that you follow on YouTube or your own Instagram pages. There's a lot of people doing a lot of the same stuff, but it's from your own perspective. And so you do have an audience, and you do have a story to tell. And so when you're telling that story, you don't want to try to tell a story to everybody, because then that kind of aligns with nobody. It doesn't connect with people. And so you really want to start getting specific with the stories and the content that you're telling as you're building your company identity and your personal brand. As somebody told me, you don't want your plumber doing, building an addition on your house. There's different skill sets here. So you can have different areas of a market that you focus on, but create content and tell a story about that area, not try to cram everything into one written piece or one video. You really don't want to dilute your brand. You want to have your brand, if it's, 3 things, tell stories and content for those 3 things. Don't cram all of that into one. So I can't recommend that enough. It's okay that certain pieces speak to certain audiences. Just kind of remember that. And share the work you want to be doing. As this touches on, if you're a newer firm and you're trying to establish yourself, you do have to take on some things, but that doesn't mean you have to share all of that. And really putting out the work and the voice and the way that you want to be perceived in the industry is super important. You're, again, driven by your mission that you've outlined, and your vision as an organization that Marcia had touched on. And so focusing on the benefits of the work and what you've done for a certain industry, if that's what you want to do, is super important as you're crafting your company identity. And then a thing too is kind of a hindrance, similar to the first point of what I do isn't unique. People try to craft the perfect thing that they think will resonate with people. And what you do, you would be surprised with what you already do would resonate with people. So you kind of just document what you're doing. You don't have to create the perfect thing. What we all do, I find our industry to be very interesting, which is why I've been in it for almost 15 years. And do we have a question? Okay. So yeah, just want to say, as you're starting, and we'll touch on ways to create content and tell stories that are comfortable for you, just keep this in mind as well, to kind of think of what you are already doing can be the easiest path forward. And so you want to share this in a way that's easy and comfortable for you. Somebody might hate being on video or hate the way they sound talking on audio. So maybe you would be really good at writing and you have a passion for writing. Well, that's great. You can be putting out content on all your social channels, on LinkedIn, on your company's website, sending out emails. Use the strength that you have and the thing that's comfortable for you. Not to say never push yourself to go outside of your comfort zone. I know for the longest time, I'd never wanted to do any kind of video podcast or any kind of thing. I just hated it. And then I've become more comfortable just by doing it and trying it. So a nice, easy way to do that is just starting with what's comfortable. You could take an example of mixed use development. And you could write a blog on 5 trends shaping mixed use development areas. You could start a video series where you just go and explore innovative and really cool destinations and mixed use projects. And that could be a video series. If you're really graphic design heavy, you could create some kind of infographic of what makes a successful mixed use development. You can put that again on your website. So finding the story that you want to tell and the way that you want to tell it is super important. I wanted to show an example that is not architecture industry related, and this is a focus on video, but it also is translated to their website and different things. But a friend of mine is the CMO at this organization, Quality Collision Group. They're a auto repair company, and they buy and then grow local auto repair shops across the country. And my friend Troy started this YouTube channel, and if you notice on the right here, August 8th, 2023. So not that long ago, and they're about to cross over 800,000 subscribers. And I think there's a few reasons of why this has been really successful for them and their company. What makes it successful is the topics. It's interesting stories that people want to share and learn more about. It's promoting the people, not always just promoting the company of look how good we are. It's promoting the people at these repair shops. It's promoting the owners of some of these really cool exotic cars, historic cars. They know their audience and they have videos that speak to those people. They're not trying to sell mufflers and products for cars. They're telling stories of people and cars, and they're doing it in a variety of ways with long form content that they then break down into short form content. And you can see, a breakdown of some of their videos and shorts here. And consistency, this is the biggest thing. I've dealt with this at pretty much every firm I've been at. Is a firm will say, well, we tried doing a video before, it didn't work. And then 5 years later, they try to do another one. And there's a reason it doesn't work, is because you just put it on your website and you forget about it. Consistency, as we all consume content in today's world, it is constantly being put out there. So telling your project stories on a regular basis, telling the stories of your people, telling stories about the neighborhoods that you're working in and communities that maybe is not even a specific project that you've done. There's all these ways that we can use storytelling to build up our personal brand and our company identity. So consistency, main takeaway, even with its written content, anything, consistency is the most important. So Bjarke Ingels, kind of polarizing in our industry. Some people love him, some people hate him, or maybe some people are in the middle. I don't know, but it seems everybody I talk to about him is it's one side or the other. But I think what the successful takeaway here is that when you think of him, you think of big, and when you think of big, you think of him, and vice versa. And so you also don't need to be a multi-office, around the world architect. You could be a very small firm that you want to only be a certain size, or you're a sole practitioner that you want to just be a singular person practicing architect forever, and that's still fine. You can still have a strong company identity and personal brand. I think Kyle does that extremely well. I've been in meetings with him recently, and it's really great and refreshing to hear how he talks about primary projects and what he's created. And now he's not a 50-person firm, but when I think of Kyle, I think of primary projects. And when I think of primary projects, I think of Kyle and his key kind of pillars of his company of being sustainable, affordable, communal. He hits on things in a really thoughtful way that he then
I'm reviewing architects that I do like.
Okay, we'll keep going. So I just want to say, you can do it at a small scale. When we were planning this talk, Susie, Kyle, and Marcia and I were talking about, just because you're a small firm doesn't mean you can't appear bigger than you are. And you don't want to be, you don't want to not be authentic, but just, kudos to Kyle for how well he does with merging and blending this company identity and personal brand. So we'll touch on our kind of last section here of the most important thing in business development. This is a new role for me. In the past year, I've been officially in business development. It's been something that I've always done as a marketing director at previous firms. But to me, it's the most crucial thing here is building and nurturing strong relationships. It's, to me, the foundation of what our industry has built on. People want to work with good people. People want to work with people they know on projects, and that they trust. So to me, nothing's more important. I think, as Marcia had pointed out, like, you have this plan, and we're going to touch on, like, you need to execute that plan. And if you just sit and you have all the data, or you could be the best architect, the best kept secret, but if nobody knows you and you don't have a relationship with all of that information, none of that really matters. And so how do you build and nurture relationships is crucial in business development. And we're going to cover strategies for networking, some that are obvious that you all probably do, and then some that maybe will get you to think about things in a different way. But it's investing in people and not projects, and it takes time. So where's the attention of individuals you want to meet with? To me, attention is huge. And the resources that Marcia mentioned, there's a book by Gary Vaynerchuk. It's called Day Trading Attention. And it really talks about this as an important thing of, where are people looking at, like, what are people doing? What events are they going to? Do people consume, are they very active on LinkedIn? Do they consume local publications? Like, how are people going to find you? And that can be, again, digital, in person. Do they know your firm? Do they know you? Super important to kind of understand that. So I was inspired by Marcia's call out to the SMART goals, and I created this called, and it's not a gut goal, but it's just like a gut action step. I guess to me, it's the first step. And so it's get started, taking immediate action rather than overthinking. It encourages you to begin the process, make initial moves, and recognizing that perfect information is, takes some time or is not available. And progress comes from taking that first step. Urgency, it's recognizing the need to make decisions quickly. I think too, in smaller firms, we don't have the luxury of having, a 8-person marketing team or 5-person marketing team. Sometimes we don't even have a dedicated person to that in small practices, or it's just 1.5 people and somebody can help you. So really, you kind of you don't have that luxury of time. So I would say urgency is super important. And it allows you to not have excessive deliberation also, and overthinking something. And then to me, trust is super important. Having confidence in yourself, and your team and the decisions that you're making involves trusting your instincts, believing your ability, and also, once you actually execute on these things that we're all talking about, you'll start to learn and adapt what works for you, what didn't work, and that's okay. And so if something doesn't work, was that just a miss completely? Did it work 50% and we need to change something? It gives you actual information that you can then take and modify and implement and adapt. So in relationship development, it really can be done anywhere. There's people that I've connected with on LinkedIn, and we've just had a connection on LinkedIn for 3 years, and I've never met them in person. Kenny, who's on the call that I see, him and I have become friends through the industry, and that all started through LinkedIn. And now, we talk on a regular basis. He's part of a coffee club that I've started that I'll touch on here shortly. But those things can grow into in-person relationships and really strong relationships, but you can do this anywhere. And again, it's finding what works for you. Marcia has found a really great insight of something that some people maybe often are scared to do is cold calls. So Marcia, do you want to chat about this briefly?
Yeah, so the warm calling is good, and it's a little easy because you've already met that person either, face to face or corresponded with them. But I want to emphasize not discrediting the power of a cold call. And I spend a lot of time doing cold calls because I conduct performance reviews for our firm during construction. So the cold calling, I think that a well-executed cold call can definitely be good at generating leads or just scheduling meetings with some owners that you may otherwise not know. And I want to offer the following cold call tips. Always do your research. It sounds silly, but definitely do the research on the person and the firm before calling. And it's so easy with LinkedIn profiles and everything else. I mean, some people will consider that maybe stalking, but it's not. It's just being educated about who you're trying to contact. So I know for myself, I will write down key points, a little script of what I'm going to say before I even call them, so that I'm clear, concise, and that I don't come off like I'm marketing something, or I'm a salesperson, I'm trying to sell them something. You don't necessarily, and this is another key point, you don't necessarily have to call the person or reach out to that top leader. You can also target the gatekeepers, like the person assistant or the secretary. You can develop a rapport with them. And I know a lot of times, if I don't even know who I should reach out to, I will talk to them and tell them what my objective is. And a lot of times people are willing to tell you, or, oh, okay, well, this person, here's their email, etc. So, and then lastly, just don't give up so easily. It may take 10 calls to connect with somebody, maybe less, but you don't necessarily need to always leave a voicemail either. Sometimes, you may call, and in today's world of caller ID, of course, they'll see that you called. But I only leave the voicemail, and if I do, and if you do, just make sure that you follow up. Put something in your Outlook, whatever your reminder, that you are going to follow up and let them know that you did leave a voicemail, and just keep trying.
Awesome. Industry events are great. Obviously, a lot of people like this is from a local recent Cornet golf outing. I just started golfing last year. I was like so hesitant. The takeaway isn't to say go to golf outings. The takeaway for me is I just started golfing last year, and for the longest time, I never did it because I was like, oh, I suck at this. I'm not going to be good. And then you go out there and you're like, well, that person plays way more than I do, and I'm actually not that bad comparatively. And so it's kind of just to get you to think about things that might be out of your comfort zone, but you can try it, and you can then grow into something. And I found that it's been actually really successful for me, and it's just something that through my own thing, just with myself, I was like, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. That was my own thing in my head. So think about other industry adjacent events maybe that you can go to, and just not to overthink that again. Just that's the takeaway. Not to say like go to networking events. Everybody does that, but think of those things outside of your comfort zone. This was, and recognizing a lot of people still, that might be scary for people. I found this to be one of the biggest and best ways to build relationships with people. And now that business development is my sole focus of my job, but it wasn't always. When I got involved with the ACE Mentor program, as Kyle mentioned earlier, I moved to Rhode Island in 2018, started working for a firm in Boston that got acquired by HTA 3 years ago. So starting over from Cleveland, Ohio, where I was from, had a really strong network, served on the AIA Cleveland board, was very involved with the industry there, to then knowing like one person here in Rhode Island, that was my wife, and then that was it. And starting fresh, I found this cause that then allowed me to really build a strong network with individuals in our industry. And again, it also allows you to show your value and what you can bring to an organization, or how you can get stuff done for them. It's just been, I can't recommend finding your cause. And it's okay that if you're a small firm, that people at your firm have different causes. You don't necessarily have to have, this is our only cause our firm supports. It's okay if somebody else wants to volunteer with homelessness, or go to food banks, or an ACE program, or whatever it may be. It's a great way to expand kind of your reach, based on getting involved on boards and serving as volunteers. So I can't recommend this enough. As I mentioned here, creating or joining a network, there's a lot of, yes, there's huge networking events, but there's also a lot of smaller networks that if you kind of put yourself out there and ask around, you could probably join one. Or you could create your own. This is a picture of one in Providence. We meet monthly in Providence and in Boston. Kyle's part of it. Marcia, Kenny, who's on the call, is part of it. We get a good group of people. Anybody that's on this call is welcome to join us. We meet at High Street Place every month in Boston. And it's just a really great way to kind of, there's no egos here. There's other architects, there's owners reps, multiple owners reps, there's city officials, engineers, and it's really about collaboration and just kind of meeting, really, it's just about meeting people that you're genuine about connecting. And we've had some really great relationships form that have turned into partnerships on projects through that. And sometimes I'm not even part of that, but that was my goal when I started it, was to to create an opportunity for others to connect instead of just your traditional, huge industry networking events. And so with this, it's being open and human. It's, when you're building connections, you need to share your experience, your genuine interest in others, have that. Don't think about what you do and how can you get something out of it. Authenticity goes a long way in building relationships that will last for years. As I mentioned, somebody told me it's really the only sustainable way to do this for long term in our industry. It might be the long game, but to me, it's the most rewarding and fulfilling way to do business development. I connected with a broker. He was at CBRE a few years ago. And the night I met him, we didn't talk about how many tenants that he's managing or spaces that he has coming up. We spent the whole night talking about his daughter's like vintage clothing business and then his own personal baseball card collection. And then literally that next week, he was like, hey, let's get together and talk about how we could, see if I can throw some work your way. And I never asked him for that, like that night. I was genuinely interested in those things because I like vintage clothing. I have my own sports card collection, and we connected on that. And now we have a great relationship for a few years. And it was centered on who we are as people, not what we do as professionals and what can we get out of it from each other. I mentioned Gary Vee's book. Again, another polarizing person. Some people love him, some people hate him. He's done a lot, I think, for me just to have my like how I approach things with a different mindset. I met him a couple months ago and it was really cool. I got to tell him some of the successes I've had through consuming his information, and he genuinely was excited to hear about it, which was really interesting to actually meet him in person. And what you see online is how he is. Like, he is pumped when people have successes. And his main thing is like, give value, give. And then you can ask when, you've built up this relationship for something. And oftentimes you probably won't even need to ask for something because you've already given value to people that they'll come to you with things. So again, helping others, if it doesn't directly affect you, is, again, the only way I kind of do this. And not to be transactional. You want to avoid approaching relationships purely with transactions in mind. Focusing on building genuine relationships rather than immediate gains. It's built on trust, mutual respect, not just, again, what projects do you have for me? And we've all seen these messages. I'm sure our inboxes on LinkedIn are filled with them, or our Outlook emails. I get this all the time. As Marcia and I were putting the final touches on this presentation, I got another one from a consultant, and this is an abridged version. I didn't want to give identities away, but we have hundreds of these examples, probably like, hey, let's connect on LinkedIn. Any new projects on the horizon that could use our services, or, and I don't respond to those because you didn't even say like, hey, how are you as a person? Or is there even a need for these services? Some of my best relationships, not to keep calling on Kenny and I connected on LinkedIn, and it was never, hey, can I do branding and signage for your company? Kenny's amazing at what he does. It was a genuine interest in our industry that we connected over. Then that was LinkedIn messages that we would exchange. And then we said, hey, let's meet in person. We realized we're not far away from each other. And now it's like grown into an actual organic, genuine relationship instead of, hey, can I do a project for you? So I just can't recommend this enough, and think you can do that kind of cold outreach as Marcia's talking about, but be genuine about it. And so again, this is a point where kind of hammering home, investing in the people, not projects. Can seem challenging at times when you need work, but I promise it will bear fruit, as they say. And so I do want to touch on, so relationships are great, it's awesome, but how does this actually bring work into our firm? And we're architects and we need to have projects to work on. So there's really an open window of opportunity here that I want to touch on. And I've talked with a lot of people about this, and whether they're an owner and decision maker, or they're a contractor subbing out things, and they have people that are looking for the contractor's hire. This really affects all areas of our industry. Is there an opportunity? Are they dissatisfied with a recent project? If a developer or higher ed institution has worked with the same architect on 5 projects, and they've been 5 incredible projects under budget, well designed, tenants love them, or the students love, whatever it may be, that window of opportunity is probably less open because they have a team that are they're operating as a machine together in a really successful way. Now, if you meet somebody and they're like, oh, we just did 6 projects, we've tried 2 different architects, neither of them were working, way over budget, buildings falling apart, whatever the problem is, like then your window of opportunity is much more open for that. And so staying in touch with people, again, back to the genuine interest in people, not, hey, you did that one building and now I don't want to talk to you anymore because you gave it to somebody else, but keeping in touch with people, those windows will come and go. And so you're actively listening to their needs. You're paying attention to how things are going with them. And, then you can start to set aside a differentiator to them. So, oh, I hear that, didn't hit the mark that you were hoping for, have the impact, and would be happy to talk to you about how our firm has done X, Y, and Z in a different way. I just think, thinking of that in this way is super important. And so kind of the final thought on relationship development is it could take a month, it could take years. Again, it goes back to that window of opportunity. You could just meet somebody and the timing is right and they're really frustrated on this last project and they want to bring somebody fresh in to try something. But it could also take years. I have relationships that I started building when I moved here to Rhode Island in 2018 that I just got a call a couple weeks ago about looking at a mill project renovation. And so that, again, it's the long game. It makes what we all do much more enjoyable. And I don't know, it's much easier for me rather than trying to sell something to somebody. But you have to be patient, consistent, and genuine in the relationships that you're nurturing. So just kind of a final wrap up, most important step, main takeaway, just get started. With the marketing plan, with content, whatever it is, whatever resonates with you, set your plan, create your plan, and then start executing. Pick something and then outline steps to do it and just start doing it. You can adapt, you can change. I think that's our biggest fear is what if it doesn't go exactly the way I thought? Well, then and you have information and then you can make it better or you can, keep it going if it's working really well. But it's super important. So, and then we created like an action plan template here that we can put into an Excel sheet. And we have, it goes bigger, but, identifying who's important to involve in a process, what is the step, who's leading it, what's the priority of this, when do we want to start it, when do we want this to be done, having regular updates, having points to meetings when you're meeting with your team. As Marcia talked in this plan, what are you doing with this plan, and actually creating it and executing it and sharing it with people so everyone knows what the plan is. Accountability is a huge thing. You don't want to be talking about the same goal 4 months from now. And so giving people the authority or empowering them to make decisions and push things along is super important. If you are the only person at your firm, empowering yourself to do that and holding yourself accountable and say, I said I wanted to go submit a talk for 5 conferences and I've only done a draft and haven't submitted for 1. Well, hold yourself accountable to start doing that stuff. And having a plan and setting reminders on your phone, on your calendar, all super important ways to do it. And then a wrap up, we have a bunch of other resources too. So maybe when we record this, we can add some more, but I just wanted to kind of highlight some books. Marcia pointed out the resources through SMPS. Here's some books that I've really enjoyed recently. I have a lot more that we can include a list. I would also love to hear books and resources and tools that you all have and find interesting. So could be a cool thing for maybe Kyle, the group, to put together of like industry resources that people find value in. And then also I just want to point out like tools and consultants here. Yes, this isn't like a book and it seems obvious, but like using, and I just listed LinkedIn and Instagram also here is because you don't have to be everything everywhere. Find a platform or find a tool that works for you. If you want to go all in on LinkedIn and that's kind of where it is for you, great. If you want to do a little bit with Instagram and LinkedIn, I found those two to be kind of the best for our industry. Where decision makers are, people you want to connect with, that's on LinkedIn and Instagram for me, in my opinion. So I'd rather do 2 things well than trying to do 8 things okay. And then also YouTube, if you want to start like a YouTube content channel, is super important with search and everything. And then AI, I mean, everyone talks about like, what's the future of AI in our industry? the amount of research you can do with, I use Perplexity AI. It's actually free with LinkedIn Premium, and you can get the pro version. So just a tip there, you get 2 for 1 on pricing. But Perplexity AI has been really great, and the amount of market research you can do very quickly is very impressive, and it's a super helpful tool. So then you can focus on implementing that information or designing projects and focus on being an architect and not be consumed and say, I don't have the time to do all of this research. Like using AI as a tool, not a replacement, is super important. And then outside consultants, trusting brand strategists, graphic designers, videographers, film directors, podcast directors, all that stuff is super important, that you can find people for your budget, for your style. That's a huge, I have a Rolodex of all of those people, because every firm I've been at has had a different style, different budget, different investment in those things. And so one person isn't maybe going to speak to your firm, and maybe they don't understand the work you do. Maybe they do something else. So understanding that there are different consultants out there, you don't have to spend $100,000 on a video. You could find people that can help you grow, and then you can grow together as you start putting out this information and content. So that
We
that
want to
is,
conclude because we want
yeah,
to let you guys, and if you have
yes.
any questions or anything, sorry, we're at 12:53, so want to be mindful of your time. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Maybe I can get us started while people are gathering thoughts. Thank you very much for the presentation. That was great. I think one of the things that we sort of joked about as we were talking about this was like the really nuts and bolts of, I think I've gone through a lot of these steps, and then I get to that spot where I'm writing that email to that potential person, and I totally stall out because it's definitely like I think this idea of gut, of like just go for it essentially like is actually really important for me to hear. But I'm wondering, I don't want to seem salesy, I don't want to seem transactional, and I don't think I am that way. I think there are certain clients where I know that they do the kind of work that I want to do, but I don't know a ton about them beyond what I can glean from a website or from their
Mhm.
LinkedIn bio. And so when I go to write that email, they're sort of like the let's get coffee version, which they may get millions of those, or this is what I tell myself. And then there's the version where I like try to make a sales pitch about myself and about how we actually seem to be aligned, but I just don't know them that well yet, right? So I don't want to miss the mark on that. So I'm just curious, like you talked about cold calling a bit, Marcia, and I thought gave some really good feedback there. But I'm wondering about, do you have any sort of script that you use when you're writing that cold email? Or is cold email totally wrong and we should just always be calling? Like I'm just wondering on
Oh
that.
no, it's never wrong to do cold emails. I do those too. You have to sometimes because just like you said, you don't know. So I think the best thing to do is you just again keep it brief and concise. Do your introduction, talk about who you are, talk about what your firm is, and then always state, I would be interested in meeting because and why you align. Why, what's the reason? And that could take 3 sentences, and usually it can. And then you can send the email and you can always follow up with that cold call. Just, you've sent it out, you didn't hear back from them in a week, just to make sure. So,
And I would say too, like if you see somebody like talk at a event, or maybe that's just like an article that came out in the news about something, like using something as a hey, I saw, like maybe because you can't be everywhere, right? So maybe you're not at, and you don't know where people are speaking at some of these smaller organizations or foundations or whatever it may be. But sending something like, hey, that really resonated with me because of X, Y, and Z. Really think this is going to be a great development for this area. Like I've done that where it's like I wouldn't add, I could do housing too, just like that for in this. It's like you kind of just show an interest, and I always get pretty much like everyone responds, and then it's turned into coffee meetings because I'm not selling HGA's services immediately. And and people often ask me like, how do you get these meetings with people? Or how do you get this person to partake on a panel that you're doing for the ACE program for an industry event? It's like, I just ask. I think people want to help people are genuine for the most part. People want to help people, to Marcia's point earlier, when you call and connect with some of these people, that the administrative people that might have access to that. So if you're just a good person, which Kyle, you are an amazing person. So it's like people will see that and will want to like help where they can. So
Great. Thank you both.
and I have scripts too. Maybe we put some together or something,
Yeah.
like not scripts, but like I have templates, so I don't have to retype an email every time. So I
Right.
have some that I've like used and we can share that with
Yeah, we can
everybody.
share those.
But I would
Great.
also say
I'll
like
follow up.
adapt it for you, and
Yeah,
your
yeah.
voice, and because you don't want to write something like I would never say that, or I would, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah. And just for everyone who is asking, I think Marcia put in the chat when the next Blueprint Coffee Club meeting is, and information on that. And we will get the information that Marcia and Chris referred to, like the worksheets and things. And we'll check in with the BSA about where it makes sense to put that. They have access to the email list of the RSVP, so it'll either be that way or it'll be posted to the page. And anyway, there's just some logistic stuff on our end to follow up with on that.
So Jamie had a really a quick question. I don't know if we have time. We have 2 minutes, but Jamie, do you want to read it, or do you want us to read it out loud?
Sure. Yeah. I'm working with a tiny architecture firm. This architect has previous experience and wants to basically branch out into a bunch of other things. So creating small objects, doing graphic design, and furniture. And so I think our issue seems to be focus, right? Because these are all kind of their own thing. And my inclination is to say, this is, you kind of start with what you know and you can build on. But do you think that there's room to do like two things at once? I'd be curious as to what your advice would be for that. We don't really have like, we have like one or two graphic design projects that have been underway, but other than that, the furniture and the other things are kind of still very much in development.
Yeah, that's
I-
so Chris, do you want to start?
yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
So I think, I mean, you see this trend a lot of they become like creative agencies, and not just like, we only do architects. You start to see a lot of these designers, creative agency houses, dabbling into art installations, fabrications, furniture design. So I think there's definitely parallels there that could easily be achieved. Now, if you start trying to like move away from architecture completely to say, hey, we're going to become brand strategists only, and then like there's ways to tap into all of those kind of parallels of the industry. And so like maybe you start just promoting more of like environmental branding opportunities that you've done internally, and start promoting that stuff. And so then people can start to see the experience, or hey, we designed this custom chair in this office, or at this really cool thing that we fabricated for a light installation and almost art piece that we worked with local fabricators on. So there's ways to start dipping your toes in all of that stuff while not abandoning what the firm is known for.
It sounds like it's better if it happens more organically, right? As a result of, whatever project that you've been working on, instead of like just target like, hey, we're going to go out and find a furniture manufacturer and build this chair that we want to design and market.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, there's one takes a lot more investment and like outreach initially. Like if you said, hey, we now automatically have a furniture line that we've created, that's people might be like, oh wow, where did this come from? But if you do start doing it organically, you start building an audience, and people might find that firm just because of that desk or that chair they designed. And then it starts to build up its own fan base and recognition and people appreciating that design. And then you say, hey, 6 months from now, we had so much success and interest in this chair, we're now fabricating them with X partner, and this furniture chair manufacturer is going to be building these, and we're going to sell them on our website. So like I think there's a lot of different ways you could approach it. That's by no means the only way to do it. unless a company said, no, we have all these designs ready to go and we're building out its own furniture website and its own marketing effort and team. That's a whole nother way to do it, but one takes a lot more resources to do, and money and time. So yeah, happy to chat after if you bounce ideas around.
All
Sounds
right, thank
fun.
you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, there are definitely firms that do that too. WDG Architecture, they have a separate like product design line, I believe, like furniture in addition to their architecture practice, but they're a bigger company, but
Yeah.
definitely
I
some.
I think too, the industry, I mean, this could be a whole nother talk of like trends of where the industry is going. I think a lot of these lines are going to start to be blurred. I have a friend in Los Angeles that does a lot of video and photography he's worked with The Weeknd and Nike and the NFL and Kanye West and all these big brands. And now he's wanting to start to get into like physical art installation, fabrication. And so I'm connecting him with some people I know out there that they can talk about designing these things to fabricate. And do they put them in commercial architecture projects? Do they become community art installations? What does this actually look like? But he doesn't have a traditional architecture degree. He's very creative and kind of thinks about things outside the box. So I think people are becoming more and more open to these kind of blurred lines of what this company does, which is awesome, I think, for the industry. It can push people in different directions.
Yeah, for
Great.
sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. How should we, I know it's 1:03, so we'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I told people in the chat that they're welcome to drop off if they have other commitments. I personally can stay for a few minutes if there was another question, and I don't want to speak for you, Marcia. I think Chris said he's okay
I
in the
can stay
chat.
too.
Okay,
So
cool. Susie, I noticed that you unmuted. Did you have a question?
I actually did. I think I was curious if you could talk more about one of your slides said document, don't create.
Mhm.
And I think for a lot of small practices, that could be helpful to understand, right? That that you don't have to take this whole other, I'm assuming, so I'm making some assumptions about what you meant, and so maybe you could clarify, but that, you know, as that your work should be also your marketing material, like the actual thing that you're producing, instead of thinking of marketing as this whole other sort of separate process that happens after the project's done.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that that mindset of document, don't create really started from Gary Vee talking about video content, but I think I've adapted it to be everything. And so your project story is interesting to me along the whole way from town meetings to get something approved, to design charrettes in your office, to like think about concepts and different versions. There's a lot of really great firms like Instagram profiles that show kind of the journey of a project, and they have like hundreds of thousands of followers because they're kind of bringing people into the industry. Architecture is one of the most followed, people love good design and stuff that they can't do themselves. And like, wow, that's really cool. I didn't know somebody could think of that. And so all of the work that you all do as architects is great. And it will speak again to somebody with your own audience, your own voice. And it doesn't have to sit and I just have been in so many meetings at firms of like, well, let's write a white paper on this, and this in the industry. And then you put it on your website. And it's like, I just being honest, I don't read industry white papers about architecture. I am consuming individual content from Kyle as a person, from Kenny, from Marcia. I'm going on, industry websites and getting links to then firm websites to explore their work. I'm not often going to a firm's website and say, let me see what journal they wrote and put all this information together. And that's such a time suck almost to do. And I think that's why firms say, oh, we got to tell this story about something. It could be so much more organic and quicker. Think of how we all consume information. We're scrolling through stuff. And so you do need to stand out. What is it different? But don't worry about it being this long, robust thing. You're not giving a professional talk every day, at a BSA conference or something. You can do more nugget sized information on LinkedIn that helps build and contribute to a bigger story over time. And then once a project's wrapped up, you could do a more finished piece or something, but there's stories and interesting thoughts and tidbits along the way. So just making it more easier on yourself, essentially. And you'll probably see with regularity, people start following a lot more.
Okay, maybe we call it there. I mean, we really appreciate the two of you sharing your expertise with us. I know that putting together a presentation is kind of a monumental effort. So, I mean, it was so like even the presentation itself was inspiring, just the visual of it. So, maybe we're all gonna like knock off your formatting a little bit as we move forward. But it was dense. So I appreciate it, and feel like I have kind of a renewed like wind at the back for pursuing this. So thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Well, thank
Thank you
you.
for having
Thank
us,
you
Kyle.
guys. Really appreciate it.
And thanks everyone for coming.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.